Reactive Training Systems.
Hey, so I want to talk to you about a fundamental concept when it comes to RPE-based training. The relationship between RPE and intensity. So when I say intensity, I'm talking about the weight on the bar. It's usually expressed as a percentage of 1 rep max, so technically it's relative intensity, but we all just call it intensity, and we know that that's what we're talking about. So a percentage of 1 rep max. So if you're talking about 85% or 90% or something like that, that's your intensity. RPE, on the other hand, is not related. Well, it's not directly related to intensity. It's a rating of your perceived difficulty of the set, the perceived level of effort that's required relative to a maximum. So where these two do intersect is when you start to consider repetitions. So if you have something like 85% on the bar and you only do 1 rep, that's going to be a fairly low RPE set. On the other hand, if you do as many reps as you can, that's going to be a high RPE set. That's going to be a 10. So the idea is that there is a relationship between intensity and RPE, but it's mediated by the number of repetitions that you're doing or how the volume of a particular set. So, RPE as a concept does go beyond just repetition-based exercises. We can talk about RPE for farmers walks. It doesn't hold the same reps in reserve relationship, but you can still talk about the relative level of difficulty of a given set of farmers walks or car pushes or anything along those lines. But let me come back to powerlifting and repetition-based exercises. For the most part, as we're talking about this, we're going to talk about how intensity and RPE are connected by repetitions. So to illustrate that a little bit better, there's something I want to show you real quick. So this is a RPE percentage chart that I use for my front squat, and this is part of the training log on the Reactive Training Systems website. You can create custom RPE charts and things of that nature. But what I'm going to be showing you here today is this helps us to understand the relationship between intensity, repetitions, and RPE. So across the top here, we have number of repetitions. And then down the side, we have the RPE, and in the middle, we have the intensities. So if you do 1 repetition at a 10 RPE, that's by definition going to be 100%. That is a 1 rep max, so that's 100% of your 1 rep max. If you do 2 repetitions at a 10 RPE, you can see for my front squat at least, it's about 97% of my 1 rep max, and so on. So for a given level of intensity, let's look at a triple at a 9 RPE. For my front squats, about 89%. So if I were to do another repetition, it's going to be a 10 RPE. So 4 reps at a 10 is also 89%. If I did 1 fewer repetitions, that's going to be 2 reps at an 8 RPE. So 2 reps at an 8 RPE is also 89%. So you can see how the repetitions and the intensity have an interaction to create the RPE. These all have a relationship, and you can manage any of these that you want in your training. Well, I suppose I should say you can manage any 2. So the way that I normally do it is I'll send a person to the gym with a repetition prescription and an RPE target. So the intensity is going to depend on their performance that day, and it will fluctuate based on the repetitions and the RPEs. If you follow a percentage-based program, you get assigned a number of reps and a percentage. So in that case, the RPE is going to fluctuate based on your performance. You could conceivably do have a percentage and RPE, and then the repetitions would fluctuate. So there are pros and cons with any of these techniques, but the point is that there's a relationship between RPEs, reps, and intensity, and that relationship is the interesting thing to know when it comes to putting the right weight on the bar. So after all, putting the right weight on the bar and lifting it the right number of times, that's the whole point. That's our objective with any kind of training. So I think understanding this relationship between these three variables helps you to do that. And as I mentioned, there's three different ways that you can control this, depending on what you want to be the dependent variable and the independent variable. So there are strengths and weaknesses to all those methods, and I've talked about that in various places before. If you follow an RPE program, so you're letting the bar weight fluctuate dependent on your performance, and you're controlling reps and RPE, that has strengths and weaknesses. I've talked about those. A traditional percentage-based program has strengths and weaknesses. We've talked about those. And then the third method that nobody really uses all that much, at least not yet, that also is going to have strengths and weaknesses. And the job of the coach is to apply the right tool at the right time. All tools have things that they're good at and things that they're not good at. So what can you do to use the right tool for the job, essentially? So hopefully this relationship is a little bit more clear, and hopefully that's a useful concept for you. Good luck with your training.
Reactive training systems.